Some of you will recall on the forum on Facebook a few days ago, I brought up the subject of using just a recoil spring guide and a brass casing to completely disassemble a carbine for the greatest degree of field stripping that one could imagine. And here I'll give you a video to try to demonstrate that process. I'm going to use as this example just a simple selection out of the collection, which is just early war Irwin Peterson rifle, and we're going to use it since it actually has the early style barrel band as well. What you'll notice quickly, I think, on the barrel band is you'll notice that there is a bit of a contour to this screw here. It isn't flat topped a flat top screw. It actually is very much so rounded in its layout, and by it being rounded, it allows me then to take just a brass shell, and I can then use that brass shell and I can twist, and I can use that then to loosen and to remove the screw, loosen the screw as much as necessary for the barrel band to get it loose. Now, what I will go ahead and mention here is this is an area where I think a lot of people cause damage to their rifles, very much so unnecessarily. I remember my dad telling me years back that when people go to remove this barrel band, they'll have a tendency to try to take a flat bladed screwdriver of some sort and try to wedge it inside of here in order to remove that, and by far that's going to cause damage to the stock, and you can look for that damage on stocks as you see them on eBay or various other sites where you'd want to go buy them, and you want to try to avoid something that's had too much amateurish attempt at removal. Now, the one tricky part of this that one could use around for, or one could actually just use one's hands for, if one is dexterous enough, is to actually press the spring sufficiently to get the barrel band slid forward. So you do have to use a little bit of muscle in order to do that. But now you have the main portion, metal portion rather, of the rifle, and we'll set the stock to the side. So here we see the carbine that we all know and love, and we'll start that familiar process. First step we'll do is we will remove our tool. And here is the reference of the tool. Set the spring down just out of view, and I'm going to set the tool right here by my side because it's going to be necessary through the remainder of the process. So, next step, depending on how tight the trigger housing is to it, you could use either your finger to remove this, or if necessary, you could use the recoil spring guide to push that screw out, and of course remove your trigger housing. We'll set this down, of course, just to the side for a moment. The next steps we're all familiar with, fairly straightforward, just to remove the bolt, and all of our pieces are now pretty much as far removed as we would need to go through to go and clean this part in any sort of a field operation. Now we have our trigger housing. Trigger housing is a little more involved because everything is held under pressure by the hammer pin. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at that, and we're going to see that in there is a nice small hole, and if you look nicely you'll see that the guide fits perfectly inside. So however you want to go about it, and I prefer to use a finger on either side to diminish the stress, and then rest in the back of my hand, and that allows us then to twist this over to the side, and we've now removed our hammer plunger. Now we have the easy part, which is simply to pull the pin to remove the hammer. And last we have the trigger pin, which actually holds the sear in place as well. And now I can go through and I can take and I can insert into the side, and it is the perfect side, both for assembly and disassembly, because it actually holds the entire piece into place. And at this point I could put the pin right back in and use this to guide that back through. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and as I do so I feel the sear come loose in my hand, and I should if I didn't have gunk inside there holding the sear pin in place, I could remove that. Now, if I simply take to cover the top of this with my two hands so as not to lose any pieces, I slide the hammer forward, or the trigger rather, forward, and the remainder of the pieces should come loose into my hand. I'll push this up forward, and of course my springs did happen to fall down onto my work desk, and of course here they are right ready on hand. Now, what if sand gets inside of this? What if the magazine catch is sticking? What if there's other issues? These are not the type 5 pins, and so what we have inside of here otherwise is we have a hole at the very bottom, and inside of that hole you can probably see, and if not you can look at your own carbine and you can probably see that bit and piece as well, but you'll see there's a small edge right inside of there. And this piece here, of course, is perfect size to fit inside, and so all we do is we stick this nice right down inside there, we catch the edge of it, we depress it, and that will release the spring for the magazine catch. I can now remove the magazine catch, set the spring and piece for it aside, and as you'll see now, of course, the safety retention spring can easily be removed, and therefore the safety itself should just pop out to the side. And now whatever degree of cleaning I need to do to this trigger housing I can now do and simply reassemble when I'm done. Thank you for watching.